From the chilly confines of Wrigley Field in Chicago, the Reds' 10-game road trip continues to balmy St. Louis. Temperatures in the 70s today in the city by the Arch as the Reds and St. Louis Cardinals bring you baseball from Busch Stadium in St. Louis on Fox Sports Ohio. Hi, hello, and welcome to St. Louis, everyone. Along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch, I'm George Grant. Chris, we've been coming here for a lot of years, and over the years, the Reds have had some win streaks, but of late, it's been tough going here in St. Louis.
It's not even as of late, George. It's all the way going back to 2003, and to jog your memory, that's when Bob Boone was managing this ball club 4 managers ago. Since that time, the Reds have had 33 series here in St. Louis, and they've walked away with 3 wins. That is not very good, and Brian Price hopes to change that starting tonight.
They lost their last 8 straight series here. It's been difficult, and the other part of it is the guy who's their best pitcher has struggled here as well. Johnny Cueto, every place he goes, people say he's the man. He's the man here, too, but he's struggled here.
Well, he has historically. In fact, he's not won a ball game here since 2010. That's almost 5 years. And, you know, just to put that in perspective, Arthur Rhodes pitched in that game for the Reds that night. But, you know, Johnny Cueto, I'm not so sure that there's a pitcher in baseball right now that feels better about himself than Johnny Cueto does right now. He's throwing the ball extremely well in his first 2 times out. He doesn't have a win to show for it, but 7 shutout innings against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then an outstanding effort against the St. Louis Cardinals where he gave up 2 unearned runs, or 1 unearned and 1 earned run, ended up getting lost in that ball game. But this guy's on top of his game right now, and when he pitches, the Reds have their A game going.
And they need their A game against the St. Louis Cardinals team, who has an A lineup of pitchers as well. All 3 pitchers the Reds will face in this series are outstanding, beginning with Michael Wacha tonight.
It's funny how the Cardinals always seem to have 1, 2, and 3 in the rotation when the Reds come to town. But Michael Wacha, well, he was a matchup against Cueto in Cincinnati. Threw the ball extremely well, big overhand fastball. Once he got through the first inning or so, Wacha really started pounding the strike zone, and he controlled the Reds very easily the rest of the day. You've got to watch out for that curveball and his changeup. Those are 2 off-speed go-to pitches. For a young guy, he's got a very good feel of pitching on the mound.
Chris, you saw that the Reds had not won a series here since 2011. Well, this tie was a tie that we wore back in 2006, the last time the Reds swept the Cardinals here in St. Louis. Let's see if that'll bring some karma. Well, coming up next, JD Jim Day will bring us some karma. He'll go behind the scenes to that slide. And an update on Devin Mesoraco next.
Sports Ohio is brought to you by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. By Chevy. Check out our award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time.
Something happened at third base today with Hayward. I thought that was a bad slide in there to, I just thought that was a dirty slide, and I didn't like that at all. And I just thought that was, he's not a dirty player. I just thought it was a bad slide and a dirty slide, and could have really affected Frazier. And I'm not happy about that, and nor are any of our players. And hopefully we'll be able to use it as fuel in the series to find ways to win games like today.
And that was Brian Price this past Sunday, and here's exactly what he's talking about. It was the wrap-up of a 3-game series with the Cardinals at GABP, and Jason Hayward with not only a late slide, but spikes were high. Todd Frazier could really get hurt on a play like that. Now, you heard Brian Price say that he doesn't think Hayward is a dirty player. He thinks it was a dirty play. Well, today he had a chance to retract those statements and said, no, I stand by those statements. That's what I said at the time. Emotions were high. That's the way I felt, and that's the way I still feel. He also says it might warrant a response, but he doesn't necessarily mean a response as in throwing inside, etc. on Hayward. That response could be kind of what he said, come in here angry, play with some emotion, and get them back by winning some games. Now, on the other side, his counterpart, Mike Matheny, also had a response for it. And this is a typical just sticking up for your player. And I think he understands where Brian Price was coming from. He said, quote, managers got to stand up for their guys when they think something happened. It was a hard, late slide. I understand where Brian Price, is coming from, but I also understand where Jason is coming from, and I support him. It was a wild day at Great American Ballpark on that day. There were many things that happened, and emotions were high, especially after this play in which John Jay was hit by the pitch. But the problem in Brian Price's eyes was Kerwin Danley, the home plate umpire, and no umpire on the field made a signal that it hit him with the pitch, so the Reds played it as a live ball. Brian Price argued his case. Joe West threw him out of the game, and emotions even got higher after that because there was another weird play. Devin Mesoraco trying to tag Yadier Molina on a bunt. Kerwin Danley initially said safe, that he didn't tag him, so they threw down the third base and turned a double play, but as it turned out, it was supposed to be a tag play at third base, so the Reds really got hosed in the process. It was not a good day for the umpire. Emotions were high, and we will see if those emotions carry over to tonight's game. It's already an emotional rivalry with the Reds, and that fuel was fired big time. It was a tight first series, and the Reds would like some payback with some W's. Johnny Cueto goes to the hill, and we are back after this.
In St. Louis, it's game one of a set between the Reds and the Cardinals. Johnny Cueto and Michael Wacha on the mound. This is a rematch of last weekend's Saturday start. We're going to take you back to last weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because things got off on a great foot for the Cincinnati Reds on Friday as they won their fourth game in a row.
I was going to say, you know how important this series is for the Reds, and it did start well after the season-opening series with the Pirates. Billy Hamilton stole second in the 8th inning after a walk, and then Todd Frazier, a very effective sacrifice fly. Redlegs win 5-4 in front of the home crowd at Great American Ballpark.
On Saturday, Johnny Cueto's lone mistake was this one right here. He'd given up an unearned run. This one earned. Matt Adams, home run, one of the difference makers. The Cardinals finish up winning that game 4-1. Takes us to Sunday in the rubber match.
And this was the one that got away for the Reds. Johnny Peralta, that big 2-run bomb in the 8th, tied things up. It went to extra innings, and in extras, Matt Carpenter came on. Another 2-run job in the 11th. Cardinals win 7-5, a game that Brian Price said we should have won. And after the game, even though he was ejected and watched from the clubhouse, Brian Price was hot. You wonder if that emotion will carry over to tonight's game.
You heard Jim Day just talking about Brian Price's comments. The other thing he said, he'd like to see some toughness from this team, and it starts with the pitcher, Johnny Cueto. When we return, George and Chris will give you the lineups to the first pitch from Busch Stadium in St. Louis. It's game 1 of 3 between your Redlegs and the Cardinals. Coming up, stay with us.
The third Busch Stadium in St. Louis, right next to Ballpark Village, always a sea of red. Reds fans have made their trek here, and you know Cardinal fans will be adorned in their red as well. A vibrant downtown Cincinnati and a vibrant downtown St. Louis, all loaded with baseball fans every time these two teams get together. And every time they get together, you never know when fireworks might explode. And let's take a look at our Myers starting lineup for the Cincinnati Reds and Brian Price, with Billy Hamilton leading it off. Hamilton in the leadoff spot, has yet to be caught stealing this season. Joey Votto is off to a great start for the first 2 weeks. Todd Frazier in the number 3 hole, and Brandon Phillips, who's hit over 500 in the last 6 games, got his average up to 324. Jay Bruce, who struggled mightily against Wacha, will hit behind him. Marlon Byrd, Brian Pena behind the plate once again. Zach Cozart, the shortstop, who's had some success against Waka, hits in the 8th spot. And Johnny Cueto will hit in the number 9 spot and be on the mound for the Reds. And here is big number 52. Chris, you talk about Cardinals, you talk about pitching.
Well, you're right, George. And you talk about big. When you say Michael Waka, you're talking about 6 feet 6 inches tall of a right-hander out of Texas that is only 23 years old, but his name is so familiar to Reds fans and also to Cardinals fans, you think he's been around for 4 or 5 years. A very talented right-hander. He's got a good arm where he can throw it up to 94, 95 miles an hour. Excellent off-speed stuff, including a curveball and a changeup. And a young man that's got a lot of experience. Now, he had some shoulder problems last year that set him back. Did not have anywhere near the year last season that he had his first year with the Cardinals. But he's a young man that they're going to build this rotation around. He, of course, and Adam Wainwright going forward.
Waka had a bump in the road physically last year. He's come back strong. The Reds are hoping the same will hold for Homer Bailey, who gets to start tomorrow for the Reds against Carlos Martinez, Homer's first start of the year. In tied at third is the third baseman Matt Carpenter, guarding against a possible bunt from Billy. Hamilton has the first baseman Adams back even with the bag. They're going to bunt here. It's going to be to the first base side. The 1-strike delivery to Billy. That's bounced to the right side. Flagged down by Adams. A quick flip, and Waka does a good job of covering. When you got Billy Hamilton, Chris, not only do you have to be worried of the bunt, but as a pitcher, you got to be worried about his speed too.
You could not have played that any better than the Cardinals play that. Waka did not take the long loop to first base. I mean, he goes right to the bag right there, Waka did, and that enabled him to cut off Billy Hamilton at the pass. Good play by Matt Adams, who fielded it and gave him a good feed. But the whole key to that is the pitcher getting the bag before anything else happens, where he doesn't have to run over the bag and field the ball at the same time.
Here's Joey Votto. Votto in overall at 353, 3 homers, 9 knocked in. For Joey, he's had success against Waka, 4 for 12 at 333, and I guess, Chris, he's kind of put the rest to talk about would he be okay this year.
Well, yeah, I think that Joey Votto came into this season with somewhat of a chip on his shoulder, working from a lot of different angles. I think he was angry that some people didn't think he was injured enough to be on the disabled list as long as he was last year. He's polarized a lot of Reds fans by, sticking with the on-base percentage ploy rather than trying to drive runs in. Some people didn't like that.
This one drilled deep to right. Going back is Hayward at the wall. Going to be gone. Dial that up. That's 4 for Votto. And the Reds take the early lead 1-0. Boy, did that sound good off the bat.
Boy, you're not kidding about that. I mean, he had an excellent batting practice, George. We were both down there pretty close to watch him, and he concentrates so much. I mean, I really believe that Votto not only is trying to prove something to himself and his teammates, but he wants to show everybody that when you're talking about the high echelon players in baseball, you should include his name. That ball was right down Broadway, and he jumped all over it.
So Votto picks up home run number 4. And the Reds have an early lead 1-0 with Frazier coming to the plate. Talking to Joey before the game today, he said, it's fun to play the game again when you're healthy. And Chris, as a pitcher, you knew when you were healthy and when you weren't. It's a whole different story when you're not and you're trying to compete at this level.
Oh, you're right, because you're competing against guys that are healthy and they're almost as good as you are, although Joey Votto is really in a class by himself when he is healthy and swinging the way he is right now.
395 feet worth of homer. That's a strike to Frazier. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Todd. Todd overall 250 against Waka, and his season average you see at 216 with the 3 homers and 9 knocked in. And that's why.
It's nice to strike in the first inning. You put your team ahead and all, but it's the first inning is when those pitchers are likely to make a mistake. They're still trying to get their feet wet out there.
That's a drill shot into left center field. On his horse is Jay. He'll flag it down, but he'll get by him at the warning track. Frazier turns and will slam on the brakes at second. So a double for Frazier. So Todd's in scoring position, and here comes Brandon Phillips.
I mean, 2 pitches that have been absolutely back-to-back whacked. That ball was hit very, very hard by Frazier. John Jay comes over. He's playing around in the right center field gap and can't get to it.
So Frazier in scoring position, and here's the guy that Cardinal fans love to hate, and that's Brandon Phillips. Ever since his run-in with Yadi Molina, the two of them have long since put it past, but every time you come to St. Louis, he's got a smile on his face because he knows how he's going to be greeted. From the stretch is Wacha. Talk about a guy who's been hot. Phillips overall at .324, and he's hit over .500 with 7 hits in the series in Chicago in the last week. He's dialed in.
Well, you know, the first thing you notice about Brandon is that he lost some weight, and in the process he looks taller, but I think he's also standing a little bit taller in the batter's box this year than he was last year.
Towards third, Carpenter will flip it across the infield. There's your second out of the inning, and here comes Jay Bruce. Time for our forward defensive alignment. The Cardinals improved defensively this year. You know about the outfield. You got Holiday over in left, Jay solid in center field, and Jason Hayward is outstanding in right, one of the best arms in right field in the league. Carpenter solid at third, Peralta and Wong the double play combo, and Adams over at first. And of course, every year you put the gold glove in on his mantle, Yadi Molina behind the plate with Michael Wacha on the mound. That is your Cardinals forward defensive alignment. And Chris, you talk about Brandon Phillips losing weight. How about Yadi Molina? We saw him in Cincinnati last week, and he had to take off about 15 pounds. Looks different, doesn't
Well,
it?
he did, and he did it purposely. I mean, it's not like one of these things where he's sick or anything like that. He wanted to save some wear and tear on his knees. Now, what it's done is had a lot of scouts wonder, you know, will he have the same kind of power going forward? Here's a guy that over the last few years was pulling a lot of pitches. Now he's kind of guiding it to right. But from those that have seen him play all spring, they tell me he's throwing just as well as ever before. And of course, he is the glue that keeps this defense together.
Here's Jay Bruce, 0 for 16 in his career against Wacha. Overall, he steps in at .219 with 2 homers. That's dribble to the right side. It'll roll foul. Trying to get Frazier in from third with 2 away. Marlon Byrd on deck.
Well, these are the at-bats right here that you just want to grind it out. You know, if you're Jay Bruce, you almost want to say, I'm going to put on a Matt Carpenter type of at-bat right here. I'm just going to refuse to be a free swinger. I'm going to find a hole. I'm going to put the bat head on the ball somewhere, and hopefully it's a line drive that can give me a 2-out ribby.
Wacha from the stretch. Here's the 2-1. In the dirt, good block by Molina. Frazier inches down from third, then goes back to the bag.
It's a good pitch to lay off.
And you see the modification, the way the Cardinals defense Jay Bruce, not an exaggerated chip. You see that 2 in the middle of the infield. That's in honor of Red Chaindings, who was honored today before the game. For 70 years as a Cardinal. Jim Day will have more on that a little bit later on. Bruce will take the walk. That's a success against Wacha, the way things have gone for him. And here comes Byrd. Marlon may not have hit the way he wanted to in the first 2 weeks. He's at 147 with no homers, 3 knocked in. But boy, has he played solid defense.
Yeah, he has. I mean, they didn't bring him over here to play defense, but that's always been his calling card. He gives you every bit of effort that he can, and his hitting will come around. I mean, this guy's got a track record.
0 for 7 against Wacha. Short lead for Bruce. Swing and a miss for strike 1. Frazier doubled. He's at third after the ground ball out, and Bruce is down at first following the free pass.
They're going right after Marlon Byrd with a high hard one, and that 4-seamer at the very top of the strike zone, one of those that is hard to lay off of if you've been a fastball hitter your whole career, and Byrd is one.
And high fastballs look so tantalizing. He gets beaten on 2 of them. No balls, 2 strikes. Wacha gets out of the 2-runner situation, but not before the Reds get a Joey Votto bomb. Home run number 4. Reds lead it 1-0. A home run from Joey Votto and a double from Frazier. Have a 1-0 lead. There's Mike Matheny, 4 years managing here in St. Louis, and they've been 4 outstanding years for the former Cardinal catcher. Let's check his Lexus starting lineup. Matt Carpenter will lead it off. Carpenter, one of the best on-base percentage players in all of baseball. Jason Hayward anchors at number 2 spot. Boy, has he given this lineup some length and breadth. Matt Holliday is off to a hot start. Hits in the number 3 hole. Matt Adams struggled of late, but he's always hit well against the Reds, and he's hit well against Cueto too. Peralta, Jay, Molina, Wong, and Waka. That is 1 through 9, and here's Johnny.
This is one of those games the Reds players, and I think Brian Price and everybody else knows that you have to give a good effort. In fact, you really need to win this ball game, because when the Reds have their A game out there with Cueto on the mound, they're as good as anybody. You just got to get Johnny a couple of runs with which to work. And if you're going to come into St. Louis and have a 3-game set, Cueto is the perfect guy to pitch on the first night. If you can get a W here, it makes it a lot easier for the next 2 games.
No balls, 2 strikes. That misses for a ball. The umpiring crew for tonight: Clint Fagan's behind the plate. Manny Gonzalez is at first, Jimmy Reynolds at second, and Paul Schreiber's at third. That's ripped to right, curving. It's a fair ball. It'll carry him off to the right fielder, Bruce. To throw to second won't be in time, and it's a leadoff double from Carpenter.
Looks like Johnny just tried to go away with a pitch right there and got it up. And Carpenter is one of these hitters that just doesn't strike out all that much. He works the count. He has a nice level swing, very quick to the ball. And we talked about leadoff hitters, George, earlier in the pregame show. And he does it one way. Billy Hamilton does it another. But Carpenter, boy, he really makes this offense go.
So runner in scoring position, and here's Hayward in at 222. No homers, only 2 knocked in. Came over from Atlanta. Of course, the Cardinals had a big hole to fill with a tragic loss of Oscar Taveras this past offseason, and while they hated to lose him as a young man and as a player, they filled the slot tremendously with Hayward. Hayward, not just an outstanding defender, solid offensive player, but also a very positive force on a ball club. 1 ball, 1 strike. Hayward 2 for 12 at 167 against Cueto in his career. Ozark trying to keep Carpenter tight at second. Misses inside, and it's 2-1.
Now the cat and mouse game here, of course, is Hayward wants to pull the ball, and he does pull the ball when he gets it on the ground and get Carpenter over to third base. Cueto wants to keep him from doing that.
Hit down to second. Phillips thinks at third, but will take the out at first. Runner advanced to third, 1 away, and here comes Holliday. And let's check the Cincinnati Reds defensive alignment, sponsored by Ford. Last year, percentage-wise, the best defense in all of baseball, and it's gotten even better this year. Bird, Hamilton, Bruce in the outfield. Frazier, Cozart, Phillips, and Votto across the infield, and Brian Pena behind the plate for Johnny Cueto. They usually are matched behind the plate. The Reds continue to be outstanding defensively in 2015. They'll bring the infield in with a runner at third and 1 out. So Cueto's goal here is to get a strikeout of Holliday. Holliday 11 for 38, 289 against Cueto. Big swing and a strike. Holliday's been hot through the first 8, hitting in 8 straight. Off to a solid start at 333. Yes, missed that one. 0-2. First 2 starts, Cueto ahead in the count almost always. In the first 2 this year, no story different, and it's the same thing here in the early going. Trying to put Holliday away and let the infield drop back. Madison wide.
Both big, powerful right-handed hitters, Matt Holliday and Marlon Byrd, both left fielders. And the opposing pitchers are going after him the same way. 3 fastballs in a row, walk-up through by Byrd. And Cueto's trying to do the same here to Holliday.
Just hanging in there, fouls it off at 1-2.
You know, anytime you get to be that 35 years of age or older, there's always people who think, well, is this the beginning of the end? Are we going to start seeing the downward slide on this player? And Holliday has really defied the odds over the years. He's now just 35 years old. Just turned 35 in January. But he's always been more of a gap hitter than a pure home run hitter. But you can see that in this particular at bat, Cueto has tried to keep the hard stuff on him.
From the stretch is Cueto. Can't offer at that, and it evens out at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Matt Adams on deck for the Redbirds. Trying to sneak it under his hands, can't do it, and we'll go full 3 balls 2 strikes.
Now Johnny's been all over the different parts of the strike zone, or at least attempted. Missed a couple outside, came in, but every pitch in this at bat has been a fastball.
Popped up short center field, but that should be good enough to get Carpenter in. Here comes Hamilton charging. He's coming. Here comes the throw. He is going to be. Now he dropped the ball. Pena dropped the ball. The throw beat him, and they say, did he touch the plate? The infielders are pointing at touching the plate, but no, the home plate umpire, Fagan, says he did touch it. The ball beat the runner. Take another look. Does he ever touch the plate?
Well, Hamilton has a strong arm, and it is right on line, although it bounces a couple of times. Oh, yeah, he got the plate, no doubt.
So a sacrifice fly for Holliday is 6-run batted in, and this game's tied up. Even with the double bounce, Hamilton's throw there in plenty of time, but Pena couldn't handle. And the sacrifice fly ties this one up.
You know, I've never had to do that play, George, having been a pitcher, but I imagine it is a lot harder than it appears on TV.
Cool.
Ball gets there, bouncing the same time the runner is pouring down on you. You know there's not going to be a collision. More than likely he's going to try to go around you or slide. But you're trying to frantically get the handle on the baseball at the same time look up where the runner is. It's a tough thing to do.
Here's Adams in at 167. That's a call, strike 3, and that'll do it. The strikeout came 1 batter too late for Johnny Cueto. So a leadoff double pays off for the Cardinals. We're tied at 1. Cueto up 3rd.
in St. Louis. I'm Jim Day. Brian Pena set to lead off this half inning for Cincinnati, and he's going to be your starting catcher behind the plate for the foreseeable future. Devin Mesoraco is back with the club today after receiving treatment for an inflamed hip in Cincinnati, but that hip is still bothering him. He took some early batting practice today and then went through some agility drills, and you could tell that it was still pinching him a bit. He says he has the most problem when he tries to go through his catching routine. He is available to pinch hit tonight. He's able to run, but going behind the plate is a different story, and he thinks that it doesn't warrant a disabled list appearance. As you look at him going through some agility drills, doesn't think it's going to land him on the DL. He thinks just some more rest and some more treatment in a few days can work the kinks out. But I got to admit, he's also worried about it as well. It's not like it's just a pulled muscle that you can rehab. Hip and a shoulder, those could be worrisome.
Right, JD, and we all watched him. We were down on the field today doing his warm-ups and doing long toss, and it appeared as Pena steps in, it appeared that he's a long ways away from being able to squat down and catch. Did you feel the same way? I guess he did. He's about to down to second. Wong has it.
I take that as a yes. George, from the Reds standpoint, they're going to want a little bit of an incremental improvement in Mesoraco tomorrow and then the next day, because if you're not getting better day by day, you're not getting any closer to being able to play. And I think they may be reluctant to put him into a ball game as a pinch hitter and then set the clock for a possible disabled list further up than you would normally do it. So eventually you're going to get to the point where you can't play short a man on your roster, and they're going to have to make a decision. Don't know when that's going to be, but I'm sure that they're looking for him to tell them tomorrow, are you getting better, staying the same, or getting worse? We really just need to make some decisions here.
And before the game today, the Reds did call up Tucker Barnhart, a fine defensive catcher. Skipworth sent down to AAA, so the Reds do have a backup catcher in the waiting, and tonight, if he is used, it would only be as a pinch hitter, meaning Mesoraco. So one away, and Waka set to deliver to Cozart in at 267, and that's a call strike. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Zach in at 267. He's had some success against Waka, 6 for 24. Popped up and out of play. Hit hard right back through the middle into center field. A base hit for Cozart. His approach looks solid this year, Chris.
Well, he, like Brandon Phillips, is standing upright a little bit more, trying to make sure that he keep that base solid, and he's just trying not to fly open. I mean, hitters and pitchers do the same thing normally when they go wrong, and it's that front shoulder flying open. He's just trying to get into a good hitting position, and that is right there. Keeps his head still, stays behind the baseball, and boy, every one of those solidly hit balls has got to feel awfully good for Cozart.
1 out, 1 on. Here's Cueto. Cardinals looking for a bunt. Charging at third is Carpenter. Cueto gets it down the first base line, but foul. And the game that the Reds won in Chicago saw something that we haven't seen in a long time, Chris. The Reds had an inning where they had, if you look at Jim Riggleman down in the third base coach's box, they had 5 singles and a hit batsman. How long has it been since we saw an inning like that with 5 singles and the Reds play that kind of baseball to score some runs? And it had to make Don Long happy.
Well, you got to take what you get.
Cueto pulls the bat back and fouls it off. It's 0-2. Steps out, looks at Riggleman, who rolls through some signs. Riggleman, the former St. Louis Cardinal third base coach, and a man who's been with the Reds organization as a manager at AA and AAA. Now the third base coach this year. Over at first as usual, Billy Hatcher. Carpenter still in tight. Cueto showing bunt, and it's wide. You talk about how Johnny has matured as a pitcher, and while he's had some bumps in the road, he's much improved in his art of sacrificing. When he first came up, it was Always an adventure. And this time he doesn't get it done. That's strikeout number 2 for Wacha. 2 away, back to the top of the order, Billy Hamilton. Hamilton dribble one to the first base side that Adams flagged down, and Wacha tapped the bag with the toss for the first out of the first inning. That was followed by a home run from Votto, who's in the on-deck circle. That's a strike. Now, starting with Dave Duncan when he came over here, the Cardinals always impressive in the way they try to control the running game. And Derek Lilliquist, the former bullpen coach, now the pitching coach here, same story, whether it's a slide step or an abbreviated leg kick. And you got the best in the business of throwing out runners. Very tough to steal against the Cardinals. There's a bouncer. Wong juggles it in the glove, but still makes the play. And the Reds retired after the Cozart hit leaves one stranded. Going to the bottom of 2, Peralta, J. Molina. Brought to you by Elkin Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries, serious pitching. That's Johnny Cueto and Felix Hernandez. The most starts since 2014 with 7 innings pitched and 2 runs or less allowed. That's big time, Chris.
Well, you're talking about the best pitchers in the game right there. Cy Young Award winners, and that's one of the things that has eluded Johnny Cueto so far in his career. You never know, though. This year could be it.
And Clayton Kershaw's on that list too with 16 of those starts, so pretty good company they all share. And Johnny Peralta in at 364, a homer, 6 knocked in, 3 for 20 at 150 against Cueto. Over the years, the Cardinals have had some great shortstops. And the great Marty Marion was listed as certainly Hall of Fame caliber, and many Cardinal fans believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. Defensively, Al Maxfielder in the 60s was outstanding. Gary Templeton, and of course Ozzie Smith all the way to the Hall of Fame. And for the first time since David Eckstein in 2005-2006, this guy has been the starting shortstop for 2 straight years. It's been a revolving door at short for the Cardinals. That's a back-to-back strikeout look, and 2 strikeouts for Cueto, 1 away in the second.
You talk about using the periphery of the strike zone, inside, outside, and then a 4-seamer right at the letters on the inside corner. Just freezes them with that one.
Now, as difficult as Peralta's had it against Cueto, it's been a different story for John Jay. 444, 12 for 27, and 3 home runs for Jay against Cueto.
You know, they keep trying to give away John Jay's starting position.
Yep.
He lost it last year to Peter Borges, finally got it back. This year they've got Randall Grichuk, who they would love to get in the lineup somewhere because he's got some pop. But Jay just keeps hitting away, and when you've got that kind of number against Johnny Cueto, you're doing something right.
You and I talked to him at the end of last year, and I told him, I said that you've got to be proud of what you've accomplished, because I mean, he was about 3rd on the depth chart when the year started, and he just tore the center field job away from everybody else. There's a liner caught by Cozart. A bullet shot, but Cozart there to glove it. Just as a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. That's Chris's favorite time of the night. Did you tip a few to celebrate your birthday? I wasn't with you on the 14th. Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you, George.
Nice to turn 39 again.
Well, I like turning 30 so much I decided to celebrate it twice.
High fly ball to left. Going back is Bird at the warning track. He'll squeeze it. Twice is nice. 2 strikeouts for Cueto. A 1-2-3 for Johnny. Reds go back to work. Here comes Votto homered. As you look at Michael Wacha, time for IGS bringing the energy story for tonight's game. Cardinals pitching staff this season, every year they're pretty good. This year they're even better than pretty good. ERA, they are first. The Reds, for instance, coming in, are in the middle of the pack overall pitching. Starters at 219, 6 1/3 innings of pitching. They are first. And the Reds are close to that. But in the bullpen, here's the difference. The Cardinals ERA 1.99. The Reds ERA has been over 4, and most of the time near 6 for this first 2 weeks of the season.
And it's that 7th and 8th inning bridge that trying to get to Aroldis Chapman has been the testy part.
Here's Joey, homered his first time up, sliced to left, curving foul. It'll go into the seats, a ball and a strike. Votto's homer, his 4th. Now 10 runs batted in on the season. And for his career, 167. That's one behind Brandon Phillips. They're both in the top 15 all time for the Reds. Breaking ball misses. Waka wanted that call. 2-1. And it's important to see the way Joey swings the bat, but it's even more refreshing for Reds fans to see the way he's running balls out, to see the way he's acting defensively. Not restricted in any way physically after last year's miseries. 3-1. Broken bat, bloop to left. Peralta has it, 1 away.
The home run that he hit his first time up was the pitch was down and kind of out over the plate. And I think ever since then, Waka against Joey Votto wants to elevate the fastball a little bit, especially get it on the inner part of the plate and challenge Votto to get the bat head through, because he's so good at hitting the ball the other way, going down and getting those pitches low and away. He wants to see if he can handle the stuff up and in.
Here's Frazier. Double to left center first time up, was left stranded. Hit pretty good to right. At the warning track, though, is Hayward, and he hauls it in. But Cueto had a quick 10-pitch inning, and Waka's about duplicating that here in the top of the 3rd.
This field plays pretty big, right field for a right-handed hitter.
This is the 3rd Busch Stadium, of course. The first Busch Stadium had artificial surface, Chris, when you played, and Whitey Herzog's club, they were motorboats. Over 200 stolen bases. Different world of baseball today, where the parks are smaller, and the home run ball was so much an important part of the decision of planning ballparks in the 80s and 90s. Are we turning that around now?
Well, it sure seems that way. Pitching has been dominant, and it's even getting more so. Pitchers are throwing harder. You've got defensive metrics, so you're moving infielders and outfielders around a lot better. You've got more video work that you can do on hitters to exploit their weaknesses. Tough time to be a hitter.
You wish you were pitching, right?
I think it's a point at which that if you just go along with the scouting report, you can get the job done. Of course, it used to be the pitchers were tossed out of the weight room. You know, we weren't even allowed in the weight room. Now they get these kids in the weight room at, 14, 15 years old, and next thing you know, you're gaining a lot of weight, you're getting muscle mass, you're throwing a lot harder. But with that comes the possibility of some injuries.
Now, wait a minute. Would you have wanted to go in the weight room, knowing you?
Oh, sure, George. I wanted those beach muscles I never got. I'm allowed in there now. I'm afraid it might be too late. I think they're doing it at such young ages now, because the key to getting signed to a college scholarship or to a pro contract is throwing hard, and everybody wants that secret to be able to fire it up there the way Michael Waka does.
Bang behind the second base bag, bobble, and it'll be too late to get Phillips at first. So on at first will be Brandon Phillips with 2 outs. That'll be an error on the shortstop, Peralta.
That's why you want to run them out all the time. I mean, because if you're just jogging down the line right there, there's a chance that recovery by Peralta would get you. The Cardinals have a good defense, but not a great defense. They're nowhere in the same class defensively as are the Reds.
Here's Bruce, walked his first time up, looking for his first hit ever against Waka.
You just wonder, George, and you made the observation earlier that the Cardinals don't shift anywhere near like, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates do on Jay Bruce. Is it because Bruce is beginning to hit the ball a little bit to left field, or do they just not buy into the shift the way some other teams do?
1 ball delivery in there for a strike. It's kind of both sides. And Matt Adams has done the same thing in spring training. Adams dropped down a couple of bunts and got a couple of base hits to the left side. Teams are not shifting as dramatically against him, and Jay did the same thing out in Arizona, and the scouting reports follow. And you and I remarked for years about Adam Dunn. When Adam Dunn first came up, and Jay Bruce is a similar case, they sprayed the ball all over the field. I mean, it wasn't odd to see Bruce. Some of his best power days were to left center and center field, and same thing for Adam Dunn.
Arbiters and chicks like home runs.
That's right. Doesn't have to be Glavine and Maddox, right? Arbitration.
It's interesting because Jay Bruce said in spring training, well, I'm not going to change my approach. I'm just going to go up there and hit it. And if I hit it right, the shifters are going to get it anyway. But I'm wondering if really deep inside he just said, I am going to change a little bit. I'm just not going to telegraph the world, let them know.
I'd go back to what he was. And the reality of it is, I mean, I kind of laughed a little bit when they asked new commissioner Rob Manfred, do you think we should outlaw the shift? I mean, baseball takes care of those things. If you react, pitchers react to hitters, hitters react to pitchers. And if you react by spraying the ball around and even driving the ball the other way, they'll stop shifting. There's a ground ball to second. That'll get Bruce. So the Reds get a runner on an error, but that's it. They strand a runner. They've stranded 4. We're tied at 1. Wong will lead it off.
Month. It's April in the OHIO on Fox Sports Ohio. Stay tuned next week to find out how you can enter to win a tremendous baseball experience. I'm Jim Day. Just like the Reds, the Cardinals are a storied franchise, and they love to honor their players of the past. And they had a terrific ceremony before the game tonight. April 17th, 1945. Red Shane Dietz in the middle there began his professional career with the Cardinals. 70 years later, he is still going strong, and they celebrated 70 years of Red Shane Dietz in professional baseball. Had his family on the field, paraded him around in an open car. Red Shane Dietz, George and Chris, I'm sure you'll expound on this more, but man, can that guy tell a story.
You're not kidding, JD. And over the years, you've got to spend time with him. And, up until a few years ago, as Wong bounces out for the first out of the inning, he was in uniform every day. 70 years with the Cardinals, 92 years of age, the roommate of Stan Musial, and they were lifelong friends, their families, their wives. What a peach of a guy, Chris.
Well, not only was he a player for nearly 20 years, he also managed the Cardinals. In fact, until Tony La Russa came along, Shane Dietz, that is, was the longest manager of the Cardinals that they've ever had in their franchise.
And what a golfer. I mean,
I didn't know that.
Legendary.
I knew that every time the Cardinals would come to Cincinnati, I mean, you could, like the sun was coming up, Red Shane Dietz would be at Kenwood Country Club.
That's it.
Probably taking somebody's money over there.
What a tremendous individual. That's a strikeout. Walker's retired, 2 away. And a few years ago, we had a lengthy interview, and Joe Nuxhall would come in, and we'd always sit down and they'd tell stories. Stan would come in and tell stories as well. And Red cherished the rivalry with the Cincinnati Reds in the time that he had with so many of the Reds players and front office people. What a special man, and a gift to the game of baseball. 70 years with the St. Louis Cardinal organization, and the roommate of Stan Musial. Fly ball, short center field. More on Red later on. That's 2 quick innings for Cueto. Nice way to do it. Johnny, be good. Marlon Byrd will lead it off. Pena and Cozart to follow when we return. Don't forget, celebrate the 25-year reunion of the 1990 wire-to-wire champions on Friday, April 24th. Friday, see your Redlegs take on the Cubs in 90s throwback jerseys, plus 30 of the 1990 World Series champs will be honored post-game on the field before a spectacular fireworks show. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. That should be a whale of a weekend and a lot of fun. Between the returning of those 30 men who were so much a part of the 90-90 wire-to-wire season. Well, wasn't it great to see the Nasty Boys together, Chris, for opening day?
Well, those guys have some fun, don't they?
Oh, God. I know Rob Dibble was saying he's just looking forward to coming back next weekend. He'll come back every weekend. He truly enjoys basking in the glory of that year, but also his teammates and the moments that he had in Cincinnati. Swing and a miss by Byrd.
Well, right now, Waka has Byrd behind his fastball and ahead of his curveball, and you cannot ask for a better combination if you're a pitcher.
Game of adjustments. Byrd trying to adjust here. Here's the 1-2. Fastballs up, breaking balls down. Been a formula that's worked for a lot of years, Chris.
Well, he's so aggressive up there, Marlon Byrd is, that on the first pitch of the at-bat kind of set everything up with a swing and a miss on a good breaking ball. And he's got him feeling in a very defensive position right now.
Brian Pena bounced to second first time up.
I'll tell you, both these pitchers right now are feeling good. I mean, they're getting the ball and going. It's exactly what MLB wanted to do.
Towards the hole. Wong smothers it. 2 away. We've seen Colton Wong come a long way, Chris. It was 4 years ago they were tabbing him as the second baseman of the future. He struggled his first year, went down, came back up, and we've seen him get better and better every series that the Reds have played against the Cardinals.
He's always had the potential and a very high ceiling. He's very fast, quick twitch muscles and so on. And, you know, it just takes time. I think people are a little bit impatient with players coming up out of the minor leagues, thinking just because you've got good numbers down there and you're a top-rated prospect that you're going to hit the big leagues and be a star. And it's just not that easy.
High in the air to center field. Jay is there. Cozart's fly ball will wind up in his glove, and it's a 1-2-3 inning. Cueto, after 16 pitches the last 2 innings, back to the mound as we go to the bottom of 4. Now being brought to you by Meyer. By your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on United States News and World Report's 2014-15 Best Children's Hospital. Great to have you with us, George Grand, Chris Welch, Jim Day, as we bring you Reds against the Redbirds, game 1 of a 3-game set. Game 1, a night game tonight. Tomorrow it's Homer Bailey making his 2015 debut against Carlos Martinez. On the air with Reds Live at 1:30. The game will follow at 2. Sunday it's Mike Leake against Adam Wainwright. That's a Sunday night game, so the game will not be broadcast on Fox Sports Ohio. There's a broken bat bloop into center. Jason Hayward gets a base hit. He's 1 for 2, and the leadoff hitter's on. Can't forget about him. He stole 20 last year.
Well, he's going to have a hard time getting a stolen base off Johnny Cueto, because even with Cueto having given up 6 stolen bases last year, which is a career high, he still is among the best right-handed pitchers in all of baseball in shutting down the opposing running game.
It's a Cardinal team that is all through spring training and in the first week of the season run more than they have in the last few years. I mean, they'll never be the running Redbirds of Whitey Herzog, but they are trying to push the running game a little more.
Well, look at the offense. I mean, they really don't have any home run hitters except for Matt Adams, and he hasn't shown the ability to hit a bunch of home runs. So they're a gap team with not a lot of overall team speed. They've got some fast guys like Colton Wong, but he's a bottom of the order hitter right now. So they've got to push the running game. They've got to push the on-base percentage game. Play small ball, if you will. It's a big ballpark. It's almost an offense that doesn't right now have a definition of what type of offense they are. And I think they thought by bringing Jason Hayward over that they would improve their overall athleticism and team speed. They do that.
He almost got picked by Cueto that time. Holiday digs in, sacrifice fly first time up. 6, 4, yes sirree, 3. A rocket hit right at Cozart. He made it look easy. That was not as easy as it appeared. Cozart, brilliant defensively, starts the 6-4-3, and that erases the base runner.
If you got defense like the Reds, you might as well use it. That's DP lane all the way, and that throw over to first base, you know, that may have taken a little bit of the game plan away from Mike Matheny, saying, you know what, I'm not even sure I want to do a hit and run right here with Cueto on the mound. He gets a lot of swings and misses, and they play a conservative, and they end up hitting it a ground ball double play.
Here's Matt Adams, who's been a pain in the neck against the Reds since he came into the league. This year he's started off struggling. Came in at 167, struck out looking his first time up. Not happy with that call by the home plate umpire Clint Fagan. I mean, this game teaches us all day in and day out. I mean, 2 years ago the Cardinals led the world in hitting with runners in scoring position. Last year they were solid in the second half when they overtook Milwaukee. For Adams, his first 22 plate appearances, he stranded 18 runners. It goes that way just when you think you figure it out, huh? And you're right, Chris, for the Cardinals offense to fire on all cylinders, this guy who's implanted in the fourth spot has to start to hit. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Setting up inside is Pena.
You know, the one thing about Adams, and this is maybe why he's not a home run hitter, if you look at his feet and where they are, he's got a little bit of a slightly open stance. But when he strides closed, and he never really gets his hip open. And that's one reason why, you know, he's probably trying to use all fields, but he closes himself off a little bit.
He does it that time. And an example of his different approach this year, and that soft single into left is the second hit of the inning. 2 out and a runner on.
Well, you know, this is all fine and good, but I mean, if you're the Cardinals, you got a guy that's going about 260 pounds, and he takes a little soft single to left field. And I know he keeps the rally going and the line continues to move and so on, but with 2 strikes it makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, don't you want that guy wheeling the lumber every once in a while?
So 2 out, runner on, and here's Peralta, struck out looking first time up.
I mean, you can get a skinny guy at 150 pounds to do that. And save on meal money.
That's 1 leg of Matt Adams. Johnny from the stretch down to third. Frazier will go the short way, and that'll do it. So 2 hits in the inning for the Redbirds, nothing to show for it. Reds go back to work as we head to the 5th. Cueto will lead it off. Greatest living Major League Baseball players. Go to MLB.com/franchise4 to cast your ballots. Winners will be revealed during the All-Star Game July 14th on Fox. I don't know, Chris. How can you pick? Man, talk about tough. Now, these are 2 franchises that are at the top of the list, and I mean, whoever you leave off certainly belongs on the list either way you look at it.
Boy,
man. Cueto showing bunt, takes it outside. And the Reds, of course, Rick Walls and company and the Reds organization, Bob Castellini, they've honored baseball and the history of the Reds with the best Hall of Fame this side of Cooperstown. It is just miraculous. Here's the 1-1. Dumped down but foul. And the Cardinals have started their Hall of Fame. They had their first induction last year. And not to take anything away from any of the inductees who were all deserving, but when I saw the list of people, I was amazed. In my mind, and I don't know what you think about it, as I look at the Cardinal history, one of the greatest Cardinals ever was George Kissel. And in my mind, he should have been in that first class. I mean, no one was more instrumental in instilling the Cardinal way to athletes and people surrounding the game than George Kissel.
Well, I think you're right, George, but what he probably did not pass was the sizzle test.
Yep.
And if you ask a lot of the younger Cardinal fans out there who's George Kissel, they probably wouldn't know. But if you had followed this team for a long time or knew anything about their minor leagues with the players that came through, they all knew George Kissel. A lot of them owed their Hall of Fame careers to George Kissel.
Here's Billy. Bounced to first, bounced to second, 0 for 2. Now, so far, the running game has not entered into the equation for the Reds if you joined us late. That's a pop. Adams will hold it in the glove, foul territory, and Hamilton is 0 for 3. And here comes Joey. Votto is the difference on the Red scoreboard. His 4th homer of the year came in the first. Time for tonight's T-Mobile game changer. Highest April average of Reds in history since 1914. The mayor, Sean Casey, at 328. Joe Morgan at 320. Foster 313. And Votto also at 313. Pretty good company for the Reds first baseman. One for 2, the homer. There's a rocket shot into right center. That's a base hit. Right on it again. So Votto, another multi-hit game.
I mean, these aren't cheap hits he's getting either. I mean, the ball that he crushed for a home run was really hit well. That ball was a breaking ball. And after throwing a fastball right by Joey Votto, you know, I probably Molina's thinking, well, we can't just throw fastball after fastball. He's too good and we'll adjust to that. But he was one step ahead of Waka that time and was all over that breaking ball.
There are pitchers that set up hitters, and sometimes there are hitters that set up pitchers. Albert Pujols, who was here, was one of those, and Joey Votto has become that kind of a hitter too.
I agree 100%.
It's funny, I asked Joey, you know, now with the new rules, you're not allowed to step out of the batter's box except for a foul ball or an interruption of play. And remember, Joey would step out and go, you know, 15 feet back. And some players would do that. Here's a big swing by Frazier. Sky to the left side. Is there room? Carpenter there. Got it. And that'll do it. The Reds will strand a runner. They've stranded 5. More on Votto when we return. We're still tied at 1. All season long in 2015 with MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com At Bat for your smartphone or your tablet. Here's John Jay, lined hard to the shortstop Cozart with 1 out in the second. 0 for 1 up for the second time as he leads off the bottom of 5. Molina and Wong to follow. One ball, 1 strike to the Redbird center fielder. Slice to left center. Here comes Bird. Marlin has it, and there's 1 away. Great to have you with us. George Grant, Chris Welch, Jim Day here for game coverage. Hope you were with us for pregame with Brian Giesenslaw and Jeff Pecoro. Don't forget, on Wednesday nights, Pick has our Reds Weekly. Great to have Doug Flynn working with Pick on Reds Weekly this year, too. And, of course, as usual, down in the truck, Josh Hall is our producer. Uncle Roy Alfers, our director. Matt Sigafus and Lauren White. Kit Dreamweaver presiding over our pregame and postgame festivities.
I'm glad that they were able to grab Doug Flynn and drag him out of that bass boat long enough to throw a few lines into the Reds pregame show.
Somewhere along the road, he's going to do a fishing piece this year on the weekly show.
There's no doubt about it.
Fly ball right. Here comes Bruce, and it's foul. Speaking of fishermen, I saw Danny Cox before the game today. Talk about all-time great fisherman. He's got his own fishing show now here in St. Louis.
I didn't know that.
I think Olga kicks Dougie out of the house just to make sure that he gets something done.
She's always been very smart about that.
What a pair. What a great couple. Always great to have him around the ballpark. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Way up high, got him, and that's a strikeout for Cueto. Johnny struck out Adams in the first, Peralta in the second, Waka in the third, and here in the 5th, he gets Molina.
You know, Johnny gets an awful lot of swing and misses on his 4-seam fastball, and more so than most every other right-handed pitcher, and he doesn't really throw all that hard. I mean, he can, when he needs to, rear back and throw at 95, but for the most part it's around 92 miles an hour, which is in the hitting zone. And that 4-seamer is very deceptive. That and the fact that he's able to put it just above the strike zone. He doesn't throw it belt high, he's throwing it letter high, and that's a pitch that if you can get it there, it can be very effective.
Les Moss, the former pitching coach for the Astros in Detroit and a manager at one time, longtime minor league manager, years ago when he was at Indianapolis and as a minor league coach, I was sitting with him and he was talking about 5-tool players, and you know, he's talking about different athletes, and everybody says a 5-tool player is an offensive player, and he was the first and the only one I ever heard say, pointing at Nolan Ryan, saying he's a 5-tool pitcher, meaning all the obvious tools, but then there's intelligence and there's intestinal fortitude, and that's what Johnny Cueto has that separates him from everybody else. Still tied at 1, going to the 6th. Celebrating the 25-year reunion of the 1990 wire-to-wire champs. All fans in attendance will receive a 1990 commemorative print, plus as many as 30 members of the 1990 team, including Barry Larkin, Chris Sabo, Eric Davis, will be honored at post-game on the field before the fireworks show. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/tickets. Boy, they'll be telling some stories. You go to fantasy camp every year, Chris, and the old-time Reds from the Big Red Machine era all the way up to the 90 era tell stories, and you got to believe there are going to be some fun stories next week.
Well, and they won't be made-up stories either. Some of those in fantasy camp get bigger and bigger every year, but I'm sure that 90s team has stories that if you were in one of the back rooms and listen to the real stories back there, that's what you want to hear.
1 ball, no strikes to Brandon, who bounced to third and reached on an error by Peralta. 0 for 2. Hit hard to left, but over his Holiday. He's got room, hauls it in, 1 away. You know, one of the interesting, I asked Rob Dibble, Norm Charlton, and Randall Kirk Myers last week on opening day. You know, what did you remember most about that year, 1990, individually and collectively? And you know, we talked about it in the pregame show, and Chris, you mentioned it in our open. Here's Bruce, that you'd hope that the Reds this year would have a bit of an edge to find a way to be aggressive against the Cardinals. It was the fight against Houston early in the year, and he said that really brought everybody together and got us all on the same page, saying we're going to put the pedal to the metal all season long, and that got that club mentally and emotionally into that season. You hope somewhere along the road every team can get that.
Was that the opening series?
Yep.
When the Reds actually opened the season that year,
yep,
on the road in Houston.
That started everything rolling.
You know, they say when your team's going really bad, you either need a party or a fight.
That's right. 2 balls, 1 strike, and they'll shift at the 2-1 count to Bruce. They just pulled Carpenter over to the second base bag. He was not there when the at-bat started. When they got to 2-1, they pushed him over on the other side of the second base bag.
This is Carpenter here, and this is where he came from. Rather than just moving the shortstop over, they wanted to keep the shortstop in the same position.
Fouled off by Jay. He walked his first time up, bounced to second his second time up.
That's after he gets 2 strikes.
Two balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Knotted at 1 here in the 6th. Bird on deck. Jay didn't like the call. Down, he says.
Yeah, these pitchers are just right on their mark tonight. Look at that pitch right off the bottom edge of the strike zone, right across the hollow of the knees. I mean, what do you do? 23 years old, boy, Michael Wacha, if this guy stays healthy. I mean, you go back the last few years that the pitchers that the Cardinals have had. Of course, recently the ace of the staff has been Adam Wainwright. Before that, Chris Carpenter. And out of the same mold is a guy like Michael Wacha. Tall right-hander, overhand breaking ball. And good enough stuff that he just is able to come right at the hitters with plenty of confidence.
4 strikeouts for Wacha, 2 of the 4 at the expense of Marlon Byrd in the 1st and 4th innings.
Wacha was not drafted out of high school. I think it's fascinating that, you know, here's a guy that was not drafted at all out of high school, but then he eventually was a #1 draft pick for the Cardinals when he came out of college in 2012. Went to Texas A&M, raised in Texarkana. Made his major league debut less than 1 year removed from pitching college baseball.
That slap foul. Count stays 2-2. skied into short center field. Who'll take charge? Jay will. And that'll do it. The Reds go 1, 2, 3 in the 6th. As you look at Ballpark Village outside the ballpark here, Waka will lead it off. Sports Ohio, make sure to stick around for Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda, for a complete recap and interviews from the locker room. The first to hear from Brian Price, the Reds manager. The first to hear from the locker room, and a complete recap of the game if you missed any of the highlights. Here's Johnny to go back to work to deliver to Michael Wacha, the pitcher, who struck out his first time up. Pretty much as billed, Chris. Two great pitchers going at it in this one.
This is where, if I'm Mike Matheny, I mean, why wouldn't you have Michael Wacha lay a bunt down here? I mean, you've got just as much chance of getting the bunt down, even with 2 strikes, than you do getting the base hit off of Johnny Cueto tonight. I mean, the Cardinals have 3 all night long.
A double to lead off the game by Carpenter. It went to third on a ground out by Hayward, and a Holiday sacrifice fly. That's the only run they have. The other 2 hits came in the 4th, a single by Hayward and a single by Adams. The only 3 hits the Redbirds have. The only Reds run came on a Votto home run in the 1st. Cozart singled in the 2nd. Votto singled in the 5th. Frazier has added a double.
Now, Johnny really flew open hard on that very last pitch. I don't think he hurt anything, but he may have tweaked something down around his feet. He was trying to throw it high and hard by Wacha. It really kind of fell off the mound. Looks like he slid a little bit when he hit.
Came back with some giddy up on that one. That's a strikeout. Wacha strikes out for the 2nd time. That's 5 strikeouts for Cueto.
That's 3 in a row now for Johnny as he gets down to the bottom of the order.
You know, we're talking last inning about intelligence and intestinal fortitude to complete the 5 tools of a pitcher. I think Brian Price had a great description of Johnny Cueto in that, when he said he knows where to get his outs. You know, he'll walk a person or pitch around somebody. He knows where he needs his outs. He knows where he can get his outs. And that comes like Greg Maddux would do, or like Glavine would do, down the list like Jose Rijo would do, or Tom Browning would do.
I mean, you learn that over the years. There are a lot of pitchers in minor league baseball that signed and they had every bit as good a stuff as Johnny Cueto. In fact, the Reds just took one off the roster who was billed to be the next Johnny Cueto, Daniel Corsino. Corsino was taken off the roster. He was claimed by the Los Angeles Dodgers in a waiver type of a deal. Interestingly enough, the Dodgers had previously claimed Ryan Denick, left-handed pitcher, and then so they let Denick go to make room for Daniel Corsino. But I mean, Corsino had just as good arm as Johnny Cueto, but just never got to the point where he learned how to make that stuff work. It's all about being able to put the ball where you want to.
How about 4 in a row? The last 2 outs of the 5th inning, the first 2 outs of the 6th. Here's Carpenter disposed of. Here's tonight's Cholula hot sauce flamethrower, Chris.
Well, Johnny's 93 miles an hour. That's pretty close to the top of his speed tonight. And sometimes you get into a ball game and the game takes on the energy of an offensive game where all of a sudden a lot of runs are scored, balls fall in, bloops and all work. And then you've got the opposite, like tonight, where both pitchers not only are hitting their spots and getting guys out, but the whole energy of this game seems like it's all about pitching.
And games like this end up one swing. Popped up down the line. Is there room for Frazier? They'll run out of room about 6 rows deep. Goes the baseball.
Big crowd on hand, of course. It's a sellout. This is their opening homestand for the Cardinals.
He joined us late. The Cardinals honoring Red Shane Dinks for his 70 years as a Redbird before the game tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Line but foul. The new bench coach here in St. Louis is David Bell, Buddy Bell's son. Asked him before the game his evaluation of Jason Hayward, and basically he said, boy, I mean, I knew he was good. He's even better than I thought he was going to be. Not just mechanically, but he's a team player. He works harder than anybody.
Good.
And how about Cueto? 3 straight strikeouts in the 6th. That's 5 straight strikeouts in the last 2 innings. Here's a punch out that ends the 6th. Reds go to work in the 7th, still tied at 1.
It is time now for our Miller Time moment. It's brought to you by Miller Lite. We're a couple days removed from Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball, and April 17th is the anniversary of Chuck Harmon making his debut with the Reds, the first African-American player to ever play for Cincinnati. Mr. Harmon is a staple at events like Reds Fest And it's always nice to just shake his hand and thank him for being a trailblazer and going through what he went through, setting the stage for many players behind him. Ultimate gentleman, Chuck Harmon. George?
You're right, JD. Hit the nail on the head. Chris, is there a more gracious man that we've run into?
No. I mean, absolutely the best, Chuck is.
His whole family he honors the Reds and all of us every time he shows up at the ballpark. And it's great to see former teammates, or, we had the civil rights game when Frank Robinson saw him. He just bolted over to see him and give him a big hug. Swing and a miss by Pena. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Bryan. Bryan bounced to second 2 times. He leads it off in the 7th. Pena, Cozart, and then Cueto due up. A run, 4 hits, no errors for the Reds. 5 left on. A run, 3 hits, 1 error for the Cardinals, and 1 left. Wacha and Cueto hooked up in a dandy. Nubbed foul. Count stays 3-2.
It used to be, before the speed up rules, that if you had 2 pitchers that were going the way they are tonight, you try to break up the momentum a little bit. You step out of the box, you do a little cat and mouse games. Now that kind of thing has been taken away. Now it's added to the overall speed of the game. You're getting an outcome one way or another at the plate a lot quicker. But you take that one little subtlety away.
Dribbled to short. Peralta backhand in the dirt, but scooped by Adams. 1 away. Time for our Kia in the driver's seat feature of the night. Zach Cozart has been in the driver's seat, brought to you by Kia. First 4 games under 100, and then the last 6 games, including tonight, he's at an even 400 at 8 for 20.
That's why baseball, you're so wrong to jump to conclusions and take a small sample size and make a judgment. And that's why it's so difficult sometimes in the month of September or the month of March during spring training to really judge players, because they can give you that little small sample size, either good or bad, and you go by that and you're completely misled.
Zach tonight, single to center, fly to center. Off the plate, tough play for Wacha. Scoops, throws, and it's down the right field line. Cozart rounds first. He'll go to second, and he'll get there without a throw. So it'll go as a base hit and then an error by Wacha. And as Wacha airmails that down the line, Kevin Sechrist has started to loosen in the bullpen for the Cardinals, the left-hander.
A competitor like Michael Wacha, the last thing he wants to do is stick that ball in his back pocket, but that is the first thing he should have done.
Johnny Cueto out from the Reds dugout, takes a moment to talk to Jim Riggleman. With 1 out and 1 on, the potential go-ahead run at second. The Cardinals expecting a bunt from Cueto. Cueto tried to bunt back in the 2nd inning and struck out. Matheny out to talk to home plate umpire Clint Fagan. Trying to read lips to figure out what he's inquiring about.
It was a very cordial conversation, whatever it was.
So in tied at third, if you're going to bunt here, you want to bunt it towards third if you're Cueto, to force the third baseman Carpenter to come in and make a play.
Well, in this particular situation, it's not as easy a play because it's not a forced play. I'm almost inclined, if I'm Bryan Price, to let him swing away here, because you may get a bloop base hit and you score a run. You don't do that on a bunt.
Gets the bunt down. That'll get the runner over. Good job. He deadens it perfectly, and the runner to third. So 2 outs, runner at third. Back to the top of the order, Billy Hamilton. And don't rule out a bunt here either for a base hit.
Well, the last time Billy was up, he did try to bunt for a base hit. We were talking about how one thing he hasn't done is bunted down the first base line. But watch him here. He's running out of the box as that ball is coming to the plate. And in the process, you lose the idea of the strike zone. So he chases the pitches up around his eyes. And it's so difficult to put the bat on the ball while your head is moving. And I know that Delino DeShields and Billy Hatcher and everybody else that has worked with Billy has said over and over again, you know, the number one rule of bunting is you put the bunt down first and then you run.
And tied at third is Carpenter. Slap foul. And the other side of that is, I mean, Dave Duncan always taught it, that if you're a pitcher and you see somebody square and try to bunt for a base hit like that, you throw it up high. That's exactly what Waka did. Difficult to keep a bunt like that on the ground.
Yeah, but if you're staying in the batter's box, you don't even offer it that much.
No, sure. Swing and a miss, and it's 0-2. Waka right at the 100 pitch mark, and knowing his physical story, you don't expect him to go much farther than that in this game early in the season.
Anybody you bring in besides Waka has got to give the Reds a better chance. This guy's dealing.
One and two. Billy tonight retired twice on ground balls and once on that pop-up, the attempted bunt. Cozart reached on a single, went to second on an error, third on the sacrifice, trying to give the Reds a lead. In the air to left. Here comes Halladay. Will he have room at the foul line? He does. Now the Cardinal fans gave him plenty of room to make that catch, and the Reds strand another runner. They've stranded 6 through 7 to the bottom of 7, still tied at 1. Back-to-back AL East showdowns as the Orioles take on the Red Sox, followed by the Yankees squaring off against the Rays. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern on America's home for baseball every Saturday. Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Don't forget, on the pregame show, they'll be talking probably, Chris, about Chris Bryant, who made his major league debut for the Cubs today, and there is a difference between spring training, AAA, and the majors, huh?
Well, there is. I mean, he was 0 for 4 today. Bryant was 3 strikeouts. But again, there's the danger of a small sample size. The kid has pretty good credentials, and I imagine you give him some time in the major leagues. If he stays healthy, he'll figure it out.
You and I both saw him this spring in Arizona. He was impressive.
Very impressive.
Here's Matt Holliday. Sacrifice fly to knock in the lone run the Cardinals have, and then hit a bullet to short that Kozar turned into a 6-4-3 double play in the fourth. I was fortunate to spend some time with Chris when he was in college, and then as part of our USA Baseball Golden Spikes Award week. Just an outstanding young man, great family, and he's going to get it. I mean, everybody struggles at some point in time, but offensively he has tools that will translate at the major league level. Might not come immediately, but he is an outstanding young man and a potentially great hitter too. There's a base hit from Holliday, and the leadoff hitter's on here in the seventh. Fourth hit for the Redbirds tonight. A double by Carpenter in the first. He later scored on the Holliday sacrifice fly. Two singles in the fourth, one by Jason Hayward, the other by Matt Adams, and then this base hit to lead off the seventh. And here's Adams.
Got a big hole on the right side of the infield if Adams can get that ball over there.
That slap foul, a ball and a strike. Adams struck out looking first time up and singled to left, a bloop in the fourth. The big burly first baseman digs in. In his career, he's got a homer and 5 for 13 against Cueto. That's way high. Sechrist continues to loosen in the Cardinal bullpen. No action in the Reds pen.
Well, that's an indication he'll probably be in the game because Walker's not due up for many hitters yet.
And we figured he'd be around 100 pitches. Tardy on that one. 2-2. Pena rolls through his signs, setting up outside. Almost picked off Joey on that.
Yeah, you want to really be careful about that actually, because he's got such a small lead over there. Holliday does. I mean, he's a guy that stole 4 bases all of last year, and he's not getting any faster. You got a better chance of throwing the ball by your first baseman.
High in the air to the left side. Is there going to be room? Bird long run, but it'll be in the seats about 3 rows deep. Mike Matheny, much like Tony La Russa at one point in time, with a different runner at first and a different equation here, with the 2-2 count, might have hit and run. La Russa was noted for that. Unlikely with Holliday down there at first and a short lead.
Well,
and Adams at the plate.
It's really more important as to who's at the plate, because if you've got a potential strikeout, you're definitely going to have a throw him out with Holliday at first. Last year, Adams, really of all the starters on the ball club, had more strikeouts than anybody else, 114. So that kind of takes away even the surprise hit and run. It could be a surprise, throw him out, strike him out.
Yes, sirree, right on the corner. That's the same pitch that Jay Bruce said was down, and Adams saying the same thing.
This one comes in at 88 miles an hour. It's a little backdoor slider, and it is intended so that the hitter gives up on it. Realizes it's outside at the last second, trying to catch the outside corner. Clint Fagan thought so.
That's 8 strikeouts for Johnny. First out, and here's Peralta. 9, rather. Check that 9. Bloop down the left field line. Long run. It'll be a fair ball. And it gets by Bird. Here's Halladay around third. He'll hold there, and it'll be second and third. Broken bat Bloop down the line by Peralta. And it's second and third with 1 out.
Well, Bird came in on that ball, and it looked like he was a little indecisive about what he wanted to do. And he played it conservatively because he didn't want that ball to get by him. If he dives for this ball, there's a chance he gets it, but there's also a chance he doesn't get it, and the ball squirts down into the corner. As it turned out, it took a wicked hop on him, and Cardinals have their best rally of the night.
So second and third with John Jay coming to the plate. Jay, if anybody in this Cardinal lineup has had the most success in his career against Cueto, coming into tonight, 12 for 27 at .444 and 3 homers. Tonight he lined to short, hit a bullet right at Cozart, and he flied to left.
All right, so that's part of it. You have John Jay, who puts a bat on the ball and it hits Cueto well, but behind him you have Yadier Molina, who seems to be the guy that kills the Reds time and time again. What does Brian Price do?
Do you walk Jay?
I think this is the only thing that you really can do.
And they will. They'll walk him intentionally and force Cueto to deal with Molina.
Molina looked terrible his last time up. He was the first of that string of strikeouts where Cueto eventually had 6 in a row. Chased a high fastball inside and looked bad doing it. And you don't really mind loading the bases with Cueto on the mound because you know that he can throw strikes. Some pitchers out there, you wouldn't take this chance.
And with some pitchers, you just wave the 4 fingers. In Price's case, and I think it's pretty clear he asked Cueto what he wanted to do. He'd give him the benefit of the doubt there. So here comes Yadi. So many times he's given the Cardinals big hits. The Reds trying to coax him into either a strikeout, a pop-up, or a ground ball double play.
First time the crowd has had a chance to get into this game. He'll be looking first pitch fastball here.
Molina, the patterned inside out swing, often tries to push the ball to right. From the stretch is Cueto, bases loaded, 1 out. That's a line drive. That's going to go all the way to the corner. 1 run scores, 2 run scores. Here comes the runner around third to the plate, and he will score 2. So they intentionally walk Jay, and who comes through? None other than Yadi Molina. A 3-run double, and the Cardinals lead it 4-1.
Boy, some things never change, and it seems like Yadi Molina is able to raise his game when he's facing the Reds. First pitch fastball, he goes to town on it down the left field line. That answers some questions, I think, with people that are wondering about Yadier Molina as to whether the weight loss that he went through this winter, whether he has the bat speed or the aggressiveness at the plate. That's about as big a double as he's hit in a long time.
Molina gives the Redbirds a big lead here in the 7th, 4-1. And here's Wong. So Molina's first hit, 1 for 3, is a big one. His second double of the year. Wong 0 for 2, a strikeout and a ground ball out. And for the first time, there's action in the Reds bullpen. J.J. Hoover up and loosening. Missing wide. 3 balls, no strikes to Wong. Mark Reynolds in the on-deck circle for the Cardinals, with Walker's spot due up next. That's a strike. Big swing, full count, 3-2.
Pulled the string on a hitter's count there. Colton Wong betting the ranch. It was a fastball. It was a nice changeup.
Try it again, full count. Cardinals came into the inning with only 3 hits. They've got a single and 2 doubles in this inning. Add that to the intentional walk, and Molina cashes it in with a 3-run double. Swing and a miss. Wong retired. Double-digit strikeouts for Cueto on this night, on his 99th pitch of the inning, of the evening. And here comes Reynolds to pinch hit for Wacha. So Wacha's night is done. Molina's given him a 4-1 lead as he exits the game. I mean, the only run the Reds got off Wacha was the home run by Votto in the first. He's held the Reds to only 5 hits. Bounce down to second. Phillips has it. That'll do it, but the damage done. Well, they walk Jay to get to Molina. But how many times have you seen number 4 do it? 4-1 Cardinals. Now you figure it's going to be a close fought game, and Joey Votto gives the Reds what looked like a big jolt in the first inning. His homer made it 1-0 Cincinnati. And after the Cardinals tied it, it was a pitching night. Michael Wacha, 7 innings, 5 hits, only 1 earned run. Johnny Cueto duplicated that until he got to the 7th inning. Cueto 10 strikeouts on the night. He was picture perfect until walking intentionally John Jay, loading the bases, and then Yadi Molina delivers the double that played 3, and the Redbirds have a 4-1 lead. For Cueto, 7 innings, only 6 hits, and those 10 strikeouts. Our Honda game summary: 2 guys who pitched well, but one big swing from number 4 has given the Cardinals a 3-run lead. That's your Honda game summary.
New pitcher for the Cardinals is a left-hander, Kevin Segrist. And we saw him in Cincinnati, and there was all sorts of talk about Segrist, who missed 2 months of the year last year, had not really fully recovered from that arm injury. It was a strained forearm. They say his last time out, he has thrown the ball as well as he's had in a long time. This is a matchup that Joey Votto's got to figure he's going to see an awful lot in the coming years, especially left-hander coming in to face him. And for the Cardinals, it'll be Segrist.
A left-handed version of Waka, big, long-legged left-hander who will nibble at that outside corner. For Votto tonight, the homer, his 4th of the year, gave the Reds that 1-0 lead in the first. He popped up and then singled to right, so 2 for 3 for Joey. Cardinals have Choate and Segrist from the left side. Former Red Matt Belisle, Seth Maness, Carlos Villanueva, Jordan Walden, and the closer Trevin Rosenthal from the right side.
Hey, Votto's swing looks good. I mean, even though he fouled that off, he was right on it. I just wonder when Segrist is going to drop that little slider on him.
Now 2 balls, 2 strikes as it come now. You see Joey looking for his first hit, 0 for 7 against Segrist in their matchups. Setting up down and away is Molina.
Boy, Molina wanted that so badly, he's going to take a little break.
Take another look.
I think it might be Segrist calming him down, and our box tracks will tell you that was a smidgen outside.
Joey digs in, 3-2. Oh, walk to Votto, so another multi on base night for Joey. A homer, a single, a walk in 4 plate appearances, and the Reds bring Frazier to the plate. Todd doubled in the first, flied to right, popped to third, 1 for 3. We're in the 8th, 4-1 Redbirds. Brandon Phillips on deck.
Boy, that Segrist isn't messing around. He's got a very good breaking ball. We've not seen anything like it. Nothing but fastball after fastball.
From the stretch, here's the 0-1. Good block by Molina. Really, no one in the Reds lineup that's had much success against this left-hander. Votto was 0 for 7 coming in. Frazier's 0 for 2. Phillips behind him 0 for 4. Bruce 1 for 8. And Bird 0 for 2.
Well, when he first came on the scene in 2013 into the big league, Segrist just had a sensational year. 45 games. He struck out more batters than innings pitched. Last year, as I mentioned, he missed a lot of time with a forearm strain, and they hope that he's back.
Oh, he locked him up. Strikeout for Segrist.
Now here's the changeup right here, and even though he elevates it, it just fools him completely with the speed. Segrist is really the guy that the Reds want Tony Cingrani this year to grow into be. Maybe in the long run, Cingrani may end up being a starter. But right now, they take the Reds version of this.
The 1 away. Votto still on first, and here's Brandon. Grounded out, reached on an error by Peralta and fly to left. Soft liner back to first, not in time. Second out of the inning. And don't forget, Fox Sports Live has all the highlights from Major League Baseball and the second night of the NHL playoffs tonight, plus the rest of the sports world. That's all tonight at 11 on Fox Sports 1. You'll see highlights of Chris Bryant's first game with the Cubs. Hey, how about Jordan Spieth? Wow, 62 today?
I didn't see that.
Amazing. At the Heritage. That's a hard hit ball, but right down to the third baseman, Carpenter, and that'll take care of Jay Bruce. So the Reds get a leadoff hitter on, but nothing to show for it. To the bottom of 8, Cardinals by 3. Friday, April the 24th, with a 25-year reunion of the 1990 wire-to-wire champs. See your Reds take on the Cubs in 90s throwback jerseys. Plus 30 of the 90 World Series champs will be honored post-game on the field before the fireworks show. Thanks to Frisch's Big Boy. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/tickets. Here are the numbers on this one. 4 runs, 6 hits, 2 errors for the Cardinals. They've left 2 on. For the Reds, a run, 5 hits, no errors, 7 left on base. Johnny Cueto, solid until the 3-run double in his 101 pitch evening. He exits trailing 4-1. Here's J.J. Hoover. Solving the bullpen dilemma, a critical part of this Red story. Johnny, no run support on this night, and the double by Molina does him in the 7th inning. Here's Carpenter. Doubled in the first, flied out and struck out. Loop to left, that's a base hit. Turning it into 2 will be Matt Carpenter. Well, Carpenter has 2 more doubles. He's 2 for 4 and the leadoff hitter in scoring position here in the bottom of 8.
Well, he just goes down to get that breaking ball right there and put the ball in play. Good things can happen.
Mom and Dad grew up in Middletown, Ohio. He, of course, comes from Texas.
Well, Carpenter's dad, he actually moved to Texas so that he could get a job as a high school coach. And he was Matt's coach in high school. In fact, he won the national championship their high school did. His father was named the National Coach of the Year. Of course, he had a pretty good team. I think he had 4 major leaguers on that ball club, including not only Matt, but James Loney, who was a pretty good player with the Los Angeles Dodgers for a few years.
Then traded to the Red Sox, now in Tampa Bay.
You know, and then Carpenter, it's amazing how things work out. When he was drafted by the Cardinals, I think in the 13th round, he was injured, and they gave him a $1,000 signing bonus. Well, he just recently, last year, signed a $52 million multi-year contract. Hang in there.
This one hit deep to right. Back is Bruce at the warning track. He'll have room. He squeezes it. Carpenter tags and goes to third. Hayward just missed hitting that one a ton. Hayward 1 for 4, and that fly ball out.
You hear the difference, though, in the ball coming off the bat. I know he missed it, didn't hit it that good, but when Votto hits the ball and pops it up to the right fielder, compared to that, it sounds like a cannon. A lot of scouts, and you've heard many along the way, George, who say, they can scout with their eyes closed. They watch a player first, then they close their eyes and listen.
Here's Holliday. Sacrifice fly tied the game at 1 in the first. Bounced into a double play, then started the rally in the 7th with a base hit to right. He's hit in the first 9 games of this 2015 season. That's wide as the Reds bring the infield in. Get him on, get him over, get him in. The Reds having trouble doing that tonight. The Cardinals have done it. In the first, Carpenter doubled. Hayward bounced the ball to second to move him to third, and Holliday's sacrifice fly tied the game. That's wide.
Holliday has a knack for rising to the occasion. And we always see Yadier Molina do it against the Reds. Holliday does it against a lot of people. I mean, you can mark him down every year for anywhere between 90 and 100 runs batted in. And I think one of the reasons is that you saw right there a perfect example that Hoover is teasing him right just outside the strike zone. But he didn't get himself out, so anxious to drive a run in that he was going to chase a bad pitch.
Holliday's job is done. He exits. Peter Borges will come in and run for him. Borges, great speed. Borges, Wong, Hayward, all great stolen base potential. Dusty Baker always called it slam range. Try to get a 4-run lead or better. And that's what Matheny's trying to do here. Here's Adams. Struck out, singled, struck out. All against Cueto, facing Hoover for the first time. First and third with 1 out. Reds double play, depth middle of the infield. That misses inside. Carpenter double. He's now at third. Borges short lead off first, not going. That misses inside again. 2-0. Keeping it on the hands. Fouled off, 2-1. Little bigger lead for Borges this time. Not going. Hopped up, but no room for Pena.
I'll tell you what, Borges is dancing off first base so erratically that even just a soft toss over there by J.J. Hoover may be able to pick him off.
Figure you got to throw over there at least once.
Well, always throw over one more time than you think is necessary.
Runner not going. That's it. Off the glove and shoulder of Phillips into right. A run will score, and it's first and third. It exploded right in front of Phillips. That'll most likely go as a base hit, as it should, but boy, it just exploded right in front of him.
Well, it did, and you just rarely ever see that. That's going to probably go down as an error, I think, but it was hit a lot harder than it appears when you're looking at it from a high home look. Still in all, Brandon is a guy that over the years you expect to make that play and turn into two and get out of the inning. Cardinals continue to pile on.
5-1 St. Louis. It will be scored an error on the second baseman. Fly ball to right. Bruce over. Got it in fair territory. The runner tagging and scoring easily from third is Borges. So the error prevents what could have been an inning double play, but also allows Borges to go all the way to third, and that sacrifice fly gets him in. Peralta delivers the run batted in, number 7 for him. And it's now 6-1. And here comes Jay. Now for 7 innings, Cueto and Waka hooked up in a dandy 1-1. And if you're just joining us in the 7th, the Cardinals busted it open with a Holiday base hit, a double by Peralta, an intentional walk, a double by Molina that made it 4-1, chasing home 3. And here in the 8th, a leadoff double by Carpenter, another walk, an error, and a sacrifice fly, and it's 6-1. Down to second. Cozart will tap the bag, but the damage done. 6 runs, 7 hits for the Redbirds. We go to the 9th.
Reds Live is presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. First look at the lineups. You'll hear from the manager, features, and so much more. And tomorrow the boys will be talking about Homer Bailey, who will make his 2015 debut after off-season elbow surgery. Homer's finally reached the point where he is ready to climb a big league mound, and it will be in game 2 of this 3-game set. Says he's ready to go. The Reds have worked him right to the point where a pitcher would be coming out of spring training, and it will be Homer Bailey versus Carlos Martinez, the second time the Reds will see Martinez this season. Reds Live at 1:30 tomorrow, the game to follow here on Fox Sports Ohio. George and Chris, just a little bit of good news. Raisel Iglesias made his minor league debut tonight with the Louisville Bats, and he went 5 innings and gave up only 3 hits, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts, and walked a batter. And here's a guy that, of course, the Cuban defector went right to the major leagues, then sent down to Louisville to stretch him out, and a pretty good start tonight for the Bats.
Thanks, JD, keeping us up to date as you always do. And Chris, you look at the struggles that the Reds bullpen has had to this point. As Peter Borges stays in the game in center, that'll move John Jay over to left. Segrist in for his 2nd inning of work here in the 9th. Marlon Byrd at the plate, swing and a miss, and Byrd has struck out for the 3rd time tonight. 0 for 4 and 3 strikeouts for Marlon Byrd. Now the Reds at this point, you hope that those that are on the roster right now can get comfortable and get this 5 through 8 straightened out leading up to Chapman. But when do you start thinking about maybe using Iglesias or Lorenzen at the major league level, even though you want them to be starters later on?
Well, yeah, that's the conundrum the Reds find themselves in, as to how to balance out the number of innings a young man's going to pitch and where they're going to pitch those innings. You've got to be careful of the innings for Iglesias because it's been so long since he's had a full season. But if he's throwing the ball like he did the first 4 innings of his major league start, and evidently like he did tonight, you would think you'd want those innings at the big league level, not at the minor league level. And you may say the same thing for Michael Lorenzen. You know, the old school thought is you work him out of the bullpen, and then at some point you put him in the rotation. And they did that for years and years and years, and I can name you a list of Hall of Famers where it didn't hurt them any. But, you know, today's thinking is a little bit different. It's a little bit more precise, and I think they're a little bit more conservative about doing that with pitchers.
Brian Pena bounces out. Reds down to their final out, and here comes Zach Cozart. Cozart singled, flied out, and singled. 2 for 3 for Zach. He's got his average over 300. 46,462 here at the New Busch Stadium. Many of them on their feet as the Cardinals try to wrap up the first game of this 3-game set, leading 6-1 here in the 9th. That's down to third, off the glove of Carpenter, a base hit. So a 3-hit night for Zach Cozart.
He's got half the Reds' production.
And that'll bring up Chris Negron to pinch hit in the pitcher spot. By the way, back home, for those of you in the Cincinnati area, don't forget the high school big league weekend kicks off tomorrow. 6 teams at Great American Ballpark. Chris, should be some great baseball. 1 o'clock tomorrow. Harrison against Oak Hills. Then at 4 o'clock, Elder against Lakota West. And Sunday at 1 at St. X against Anderson. Great high school baseball. It's been a tremendous spring. 70 teams involved in the Skyline Chili outstanding tournament. So if you're around the ballpark, show up for great baseball.
Well, what the Reds have done over the years, George, for amateur baseball, for refurbishing fields through the Reds Community Fund, the Youth Academy, the Urban Youth Academy that has opened up in Roselawn, the high school tournament that they put on, it is just tremendous. You know, you get that feeder system.
Half swing by Negron. And it's no balls and 2 strikes.
That last swing by Chris, really a microcosm of the Reds' night.
Down and in. We get to see Homer Bailey tomorrow. Chris, what do you expect?
Well, I expect Homer to be the competitor that he is and get out there and get after him. You know, the one thing that always happens after spring training is that, you know, do you have the command of your off-speed stuff? And you really never know.
Here's the 1-2. Ooh. Did that get his arm? Home plate umpire says Dick Fagan saying it did not clip his shirt.
As hard as that was thrown, you may want to take a sniff of burning fabric.
He's nodding to Brian Price. Yes, it did hit me.
Well, this is a reviewable call.
Yes.
Of course, you have to ask the umpires, right?
They will challenge it. So with 1 out left, Brian Price hoping for one last gasp of air to try to keep the line moving. So they'll check back to New York.
Well, the fans are booing here, George, because you know when you do this in the 9th inning, all the beer stands are closed. So if you're going to delay the game, do it before the 7th.
So what you're saying is this new challenge rule should be modified. I do like the way it has so far evolved this year. You know, without having to go out and make the march out to the mound. It's worked pretty good.
And for the most part, you know, the way that they've shifted over the last couple of years to where have umpire crew in New York looking at monitors, you know, central command, I think that has worked so much better than the umpires going down under there somewhere and looking at their own monitor.
Well, you're going to need a better shot than that shot that we have, and they have more angles.
Yeah, they've got the home feed and the visitors feed, which is not always the same thing.
Jimmy Reynolds, the second base umpire, in with Fagan. And he's saying go to first.
Hey, Chris Negron would simply not make that up.
Yep.
Even if he knew the kid, he wouldn't have even needed the review.
Yeah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. So the call is overturned, and that puts 2 runners on with 2 outs. Back to the top of the order, Billy Hamilton. Hamilton 0 for 4 tonight. Bounced out twice, popped up and flied out. And Reds still have a long road to go, down by 5, but if Hamilton can keep the line moving, you got Joey Votto in the on-deck circle. Strike 1 to the Reds' speedy leadoff hitter. Infield back with 2 on and 2 out. Right down the middle for a strike. 0-2. Try it again, 0-2. Don't forget, tomorrow it'll be Homer Bailey against Carlos Martinez. Reds live at 1:30. Game will follow. And the Reds Sunday, it's a Sunday night affair. Mike Leake against Adam Wainwright. Then it's on to Milwaukee for 4. That's down and in. Brian Price would love to get number 19 up one more time. Hanging in there is Hamilton. Now the one good part of this story, Chris, now over 30 pitches will be Seagrass, so unlikely you'll see him tomorrow.
You're always looking for the bright side, George. I kind of like that about you.
One and 2. Yes, sir. They threaded the needle on the outside corner, and the Cardinals take the first of 3 against the Reds. For the Cardinals, 6 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors. They left 3. For the Reds, a run, 6 hits, and an error. They left 9 on base on this night. Michael Wacha gets the best of Johnny Cueto, and that man, Yadi Molina, was the major culprit. A bases loaded double in the 7th, plated 3 to bust up in a 1-1 game, and a 4-1 lead for the Cardinals. More to talk about when we return, as the Cardinals have taken the first of 3.